everyone. We are going to get started here in just a moment. Today, we are going to be talking about 3 things that you need to do before you apply to any job. And most of you joining us are people who work in user experience, but honestly, all of these suggestions are things that really apply to any job you might be applying to. So feel free to pass this video. Whoops, my desk moved. Pass this video along to other people you know that might be looking for jobs right now. I have 3 really actionable things that you can do. I thought about kind of treating this as a workshop, but in the interest of time, I'm going to talk you through these activities and then you can do it on your own time because I know we are all at work or in the middle of our workday, etc. So, I want to make sure that you guys can see me and hear me. All right, so just give me a thumbs up to let me know. And I think that's about it. So let's not waste any time. This should go about 30 minutes, no more than 30 minutes. So that's what we are looking at. And in case you don't know me, you're just tuning in because someone shared this with you or it popped up. I'm Sarah Doody. I'm the founder of Career Strategy Lab, which is a UX job search accelerator. So we help you get hired faster and without applying to hundreds of jobs. I want to reiterate that we are not a boot camp. We do not teach you how to do user experience, etc. We are laser focused on helping you with everything in your job search, your resume, your portfolio, your LinkedIn, finding jobs, applying to jobs, preparing for interviews, etc. That is what we are laser focused on. And, I think that's why our clients are really successful when they work with us because they get hired on average in 3.5 months and get hired at awesome companies like Blue Origin, Microsoft, Amazon, all kinds of places. So that's who I am. I have a team that works with me. But today, let's dive into those 3 things you need to do before you ever apply to a job. And I think this is really important because my hunch is many of you are applying to jobs and not getting interviews. Let me know if that is you in the chat. Or many of you have been applying to jobs for, much longer than you imagined. You probably thought you'd be hired in a matter of a month or so, and maybe it's been 2, 3, 4, 12 months. Maybe you are in a job right now where you feel like you have plateaued a little, whether it's plateaued in the skills you're using or other things. Or maybe you are currently in a job and you are thinking to yourself, in hindsight, this job I took or the job that it is today, it's not what I want to be doing. Maybe you think to yourself, you chased, there's this phrase, chasing shiny pennies. And sometimes it could be literally chasing money. But also, I think chasing shiny pennies can relate to things like you were really adamant that you needed to have a job title of X, or you decided you had to work at a FANG company, for example. But in hindsight, you're thinking, this isn't what I thought it was. So maybe that is some of you. I see a few of you commenting in the chat there that it sounds exactly like your current scenario. So yeah, I want to do this to help avoid that situation and help you get out of the rut that maybe you are in. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and I have to go to my window, this one, and then, hold on, can't mess this up, the most important part, this one. All right, we're sharing it, and you'll still be able to see me kind of small there. So, and now I have to find my slide thingy, hold on. Where did it go? All right, we're all set up. Thanks for your patience. Okay, So, the first thing that you need to do before you ever apply to a job is review your deal breaker list, or the word that I use to describe this list is something called a career value criteria document. Kind of a mouthful. That's what we call it inside Career Strategy Lab, but really it is a deal breaker list. It's kind of honestly like, if you're looking for a house or you're looking for a partner, you probably have a mental list, or maybe you're really proactive and you wrote this list down of deal breakers. And the same thing really needs to apply to your job search, because if you do not do this, two things will probably happen. You will end up applying to and spending time and energy applying to jobs that probably are not a fit. Or worse, you get hired at these companies and then you think to yourself, oh man, this is not what I thought it was. Now I'm stuck here, etc. So, what exactly goes into this deal breaker list? We're going to get into that in a moment, but the first thing you need to do is kind of a little brainstorm. And I call this the like and loathe list. You can call it whatever you want, but I really encourage you to draw this out on a piece of paper now or later and think to yourself, over the past 2 to 3 years, your most recent role, feel free to go back as far as you like. I don't care. But the point of this activity is to set some time aside to be really intentional and brainstorm, what did you really like about past roles and what did you loathe? I don't really like the word hate, but like and loathe. And I want you to be really broad with what you put on this list. And nothing is off limits. It could be like, I didn't like that they made me use a PC and I really like Macs. But it also could be things related to the industry that you worked in, or the size of the team, or that you realized your manager was really busy and you didn't get to have that mentorship you were looking for. So make a list of all the things that you've liked in past jobs and loathed. And, it could be about benefits. It could be about your salary, your job title, the fact that they did, cool retreats or something. I don't know. It's up to you. But do this activity, because this activity is kind of like a little mini user research project to help you uncover what is going to go into your like and loathe list, which is what we're going to look at next. So after you reflect and do your like and loathe list, then you're going to start to put together this career value criteria document, for lack of better word. And I want you to think about not just salary, not just job title, but think about things like company size, right? Maybe you're at a large company right now and you've realized, I don't like this. It's too many people, or we have to move too slow, and you want to go to work at a startup. A friend of mine just went through this actually. Company type. Maybe you've realized you don't like working at startups and you want to be at a more established company. Or maybe you're currently working in like the NGO or nonprofit space and you think, there's not enough budget or there's too much red tape. I want to get out of this. So think about company type. Team size, super critical for so many reasons, right? The speed at which you can operate, the ability for you to learn from other people. Maybe you're a UX team of one right now, and you think, I feel like I'm kind of plateauing and I'm not being able to learn from other people. So think about team size, industry. Maybe you realize, oh man, I've worked in insurance for the past 5 years and I'm really burnt out on it. I want to work in something else. Company design maturity, that's really important. Maybe you really get excited about and thrive in companies that are really kind of on the beginning of the spectrum of understanding design and user experience, building those teams, processes, etc. Maybe you love that. Maybe you can't stand working at a company that you have to explain what UX is every single day. Next up, obvious things like benefits. like salary, location. Is it a deal breaker that you must work remote? Is it a deal breaker that you have to be in a certain city? So think about those types of things. Culture as well, very, very important. Growth opportunities. If you want to get into leadership or management or something like that in the next couple of years, you need to prioritize that and make sure that the companies you're applying to, have those opportunities. If you go to a startup, it might be a little bit of time before they're ready to build a formal user research department, let's say. Next, now that we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, think about travel. Is travel a deal breaker for you? Do you not ever want to do business travel? How open are you to that? Salary, obviously. And I think that's the only thing. But there may be other ideas that come up for you in terms of what are your deal breakers. But I'm curious. I want to check in with you all because you're a little quiet. So let me know. Have you ever done anything like this before? Are you thinking to yourself, wow, this could be really helpful, whether it's developing this criteria list or that like and loathe list? But the whole point of this is to really serve as a compass or a filter so that when you literally do start to go and find jobs to apply to, you are not wasting your time trying to apply to all the jobs, because for every job or company you look at, you can then look at your deal breaker list over here and think, okay, this job or this company, do they match up to this stuff over here? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then get out of there. Don't waste your time applying to those jobs. Okay. So this is all, like I said, intended to help you save time in your job search and not risk that you get kind of wooed or enamored with a salary or a title, and you don't think about all those other things that really go into the whole kind of experience, fulfillment, satisfaction with your job, right? You can have an amazing salary. If you have to manage 70 people and you're up on calls at 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., there's trade-offs, right? All right. So the next thing I want you to do before you apply to a job is work your sources and build relationships. I do not like the word networking because I think as soon as you see networking, people think it's just sleazy, it's inauthentic, it feels like a lot of work. Or people who might be more introverted think, oh, I'm at a disadvantage, I don't know how to network, I'm too shy, etc. So this is not networking. I want us to reframe networking as relationship building. And so, why is this so important? It's crucial because approximately 70 to 80 jobs are found and filled through word of mouth. And this is why it's so important to always be building relationships. You should not, you need to find a job, you get laid off, whatever. That is not the time to try and be building relationships, right? You want to be cultivating those relationships all the time so that if you do find yourself in a situation where you have lost your job or something like that, you are going to people, sending messages to people who already know you. And it feels a lot more authentic. And I think it increases the chances that they want to help you rather than just you don't know someone, but you just got laid off. So you find someone who works at the company you want to work at and you send them a cold email saying, hey, like, can you help me get hired? That to me feels very sleazy and inauthentic. And I think the chances of that person replying are pretty darn low because you're no one to them, right? Whereas if you are communicating and sending messages to people and then you reach out and they remember you because your familiar face or your last conversation, there's a lot more chances that people are going to remember you if you're building those relationships, all the time. So that's why I'm rambling on about this point because it's so crucial. So a lot of you, I think, are wondering, well, where do I build relationships? It's so hard. We can't go to in-person networking events, or maybe that hasn't started up again in your city or your town or something. And I think the beauty of the world that we live in is that networking does not have to be you putting on some outfit and going to like the lobby of some company or a bar or a coffee shop and like awkwardly trying to small talk with people, right? We can do this now through online groups and communities and things like that, and eliminate one of those kind of barriers or areas where people feel concerned or disadvantaged with in person networking. So, where can you find and build these relationships? Obviously, UX communities, there are so many of them. And I think the thing to be cautious of is be very selective about the communities you're involved with, because if you kind of go on a community joining binge, let's say, and all of a sudden your Slack has like 10 different communities on the side, that's going to be really overwhelming. And you're never really going to be able to, I think, easily form authentic relationships because you're kind of spreading yourself too thin, right? You just won't have the bandwidth to keep up with all of those. I think instead of just joining generic UX communities, if, for example, you're a UX researcher, get in the UX research communities, right? Even though maybe like um, a large kind of generic UX community might exist, that's great. And maybe there's 20,000 people in that group. But if you're a researcher, it might be more valuable to be in the research community where there's only 2,000 people and it might, or 200. And it might be easier to form those relationships and not just be a stranger, be a familiar face over there. So there's tons of groups on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I am not really a Facebook user other than the UX communities over there. I do pop into them from time to time. I do a lot of lurking, but I try and set aside every week to reply to some different communities and questions over there. And of course, there's so many Slack groups. But like I said, don't just feel like you need to join every single one. Kind of niche down and think about the communities that might be most beneficial for you. Other things to think about: alumni groups from where you went to school or companies you used to work at. Many companies have alumni groups. Those are great ways to stay connected with people you went to school with or worked with. Twitter, again, is a great place to find people and meet people and start to form those relationships. And I know some of you are thinking, how do I form relationships with people, etc.? To me, networking and forming relationships is not sliding into someone's DM and saying, hey, can we have a Zoom coffee date? That's a very huge ask. And people ask me that all the time. And I'm like, I don't have time to have coffee chats with everyone. So I frankly don't do them. But what I do have time for is if people ask me questions on Twitter or on LinkedIn, I don't always reply. I just get so many messages, I miss a lot of them. But, if I post something, an article, and someone leaves a comment, it's more likely that I might reply over there. So think about how you can engage with the content and posts that people are putting out there through comments, through liking, etc. And you will eventually become a familiar face. There's definitely people that comment and post on my stuff, and maybe I've never had a conversation with them, but when their name or photo comes up, I think, oh yeah, there's that person again. So they're not a stranger. Same thing with LinkedIn. We just talked about that. And another thing to keep in mind is when to message people. I know a lot of you wonder, what's the right way to cold message people? How do I do that, etc. And we're not going to get into kind of the exact Mad Lib style examples of how to reach out to people. We just don't have time. But you want to be reaching out to people, and maybe that's an email, a direct message, a comment on a post, things like that. You want to be building these relationships, like I said, before you need them. So you could be let's say you're messaging someone, you could be asking them before you apply to a job, asking them questions like, what's it like to work there? Or you notice they've been there for 5 years. Why have they been there for so long? What do they like most about their job? How has the company's design maturity evolved over the years? Those are great examples of simple, short questions that you can ask people before you apply to the job. Um, and then that might lead to kind of a friend on the inside who you can ask more questions to later on. You definitely should try to reach out and make contact with people after you apply to jobs. Now, of course, this isn't always possible. There's not always a um, email address or name of who posted the job, but oftentimes I see on LinkedIn individual people, managers, hiring managers, etc., posting that their company is hiring. And if that is how you find out about a job, then guess what? You've kind of hit the jackpot because you have the name of the person who posted that job or put it on Twitter or LinkedIn. So if you apply to a job, it can't hurt to message that person and say, "Hey, I saw that job you posted, last Thursday. I wanted to let you know I just applied. I think I'm a great fit because," and like one sentence about why you think you're a great fit, not 3 paragraphs, because they're not going to read that. Think of like one sentence or one tweet. You're a great fit for that role because if that were a tweet, what would it be? And then I would also say, after you start getting interviews, that's a great opportunity to send messages again or reach out to people. I do not think it's old fashioned to follow up after interviews. My stance is it takes you no time at all. It honestly cannot do any harm. And to me, the benefit is that you are increasing the chances that they don't forget about you. And what could you put in that message to them after they interview you? You could bring up, follow up with something that they asked you in the interview, or oftentimes after interviews, you think, oh, I should have mentioned this, or oh, they mentioned that article and I read it and now I have opinions about it. So that's the type of stuff that you could say after the interview, just saying, hey, thanks for the interview. I look forward to hearing from you. That's okay, but it's not very memorable. And it just sounds like a lot of other messages they might get. Whereas if you actually take the time to follow up with something that was mentioned in the interview, an article, a project you worked on, whatever, exactly like what I just said, that will increase the chances that they don't forget about you. And the third thing that you need to do before you ever apply to a job is to tailor your materials. Now, what does this mean? This means that you should never, ever, 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 ever just send the same generic resume to every job you apply to. The same applies to your portfolio if you have one, or your cover letter. And I know some of you are probably rolling your eyes and saying, that's BS. It takes too long. I don't have energy. How am I going to find time to do this, etc. I'm telling you, from working with so many people inside our Career Strategy Lab program, this works. As soon as people start doing this, they're able to stand out more. So how do you exactly do this? What you need to do is, first of all, read the job description and then read it a second time. And I really encourage you to literally even print it out, highlight things in the job description that you feel like they are kind of being repetitive about, and or highlight the things that you feel like, wow, I really, really match bullet point 2, 3, and 4 or something like that. Once you do that and kind of study and analyze the job description, you can then have a little list of things that you want to highlight in your resume, cover letter, or portfolio. And how do you do that exactly? I'm going to tell you. First of all, for your resume, you could be tweaking that little about me or summary statement of you at the top of your resume. You might be rearranging words, writing a new version of it, moving things around. That is one way you can tailor your resume. Another thing you can do, super simple, rearrange the order of the bullet points. If you at your last job, you think, wow, those bullet points, the last 2 bullet points really relate to this job, move those last 2 bullet points up to the top. You could also rearrange the order of the projects in your portfolio. Maybe your third project is really relevant to the job you're applying to. Make that the first project. Now, obviously, if your portfolio is a website, that's going to be hard, which is why I say over and over and over, you need a PDF portfolio to do exactly that. So I'm not answering questions about website versus PDF. That's why. Or also, you could add or remove projects in your portfolio. So some of you have been working in UX for 8, 10, 15 or more years, and you have the luxury of having worked on a ton of projects. So you might have 7, 8 projects that you could include. You might think to yourself, for this job I just applied to, out of these 8 projects, these 3 are the best. That's what I mean when I say tailor, reorder, rearrange, add, remove projects from your portfolio. Another thing you can do is in the cover letter, for example, highlight bits and pieces of your work experience, industry experience, etc. A lot of people say, I'm not doing a cover letter. They can just read my resume. Well, think of your cover letter as an appetizer and your resume as the entree. And think of your cover letter like this. If they only read your cover letter, didn't look at anything else, no LinkedIn, no resume, no nothing, what would they learn about you? And what are the chances that they would think to themselves, wow, based on this short cover letter, this person sounds like they match the job. The point of the cover letter is to summarize the most relevant bits and pieces of your experience so that they don't have to skim your entire resume. Make sense? Okay, so that is how you can tailor your cover letter. And I already said this at the beginning, but above all, you need to do this through studying and using the job description. The job description is basically a ton of clues of what they're looking for. So if you can use those clues, mainly the bullet points on the job description, to then inform the skills and experience that you really want to shine a spotlight on, that's how you're going to end up with a resume, cover letter, portfolio, etc., that is tailored to the job you are applying to. But if you do these 3 things, if you tailor those materials, if you work on building authentic relationships, and if you do that work before you ever apply to the job, to come up with your deal breaker list, can you guys now see how doing these things is going to help you know the right jobs to apply to and which ones to run away from or not invest any time in? And bonus, that career value criteria document, this one, oh, we got to click through all of them. Whoops. Oh, we got to do it again. I can't talk and do this at the same time. Okay. This one, this is also going to give you a ton of questions that you could ask in the job interview, right? So bonus points. We're being able to use some of what you learned today to help you with interviews as well. But if you're not doing these 3 things, I really encourage you to start doing them, because we see time and time again, when people do these things, they're able to get job interviews faster and get hired faster. Some people in Career Strategy Lab have been hired just 47 days after joining. Another one was 50 days. Another one was 60. Another one was 80 or 90. And they all say it's because of many things, but one of the things is this very strategic approach to the job search helps you avoid just playing the numbers game, crossing your fingers, and hoping that out of the 1 or 2 or 3 or 400 jobs you apply to, one of them sticks. So I want to know from you guys, what is your number 1 takeaway from this? Like, if you had a little virtual sticky note, and it's a little one, these ones, these ones, if you had a Post-it note, what would you write on it as your number 1 takeaway or thing you're going to do, whatever that is. I really want to know in the chat, and then you won't forget it too. Bonus points. So let me know in the chat. And while you're doing that, I want to tell you just a little bit more about Career Strategy Lab. Like I said, I'm the founder and CEO of Career Strategy Lab. And together with my team, we run this UX Career Accelerator, which is going to help you get hired, apply UX and product principles to your career so you cannot do this playing to hundreds of jobs dance that so many people are doing. And the program really works. We've had people get hired. This person, Fee, did Springboard and ended up getting hired just after 4-week long job search and only applied to 35 jobs, which is pretty awesome. And they got hired at Polaris, the like they make adventure vehicles and stuff like that. I don't even know what to call it. And another person, Tessa, got hired after a 23-day job search and switched into UX from graphic design and ended up getting hired at a large kind of financial company. But the cool thing was, before Tessa joined Career Strategy Lab, she had applied to almost 400 jobs and only had 4 interviews. And then after she did what we teach, she only applied to 11 jobs and got hired, which still blows my mind. I'm so happy for Tessa. So we have had people get hired at all these companies and others, Blue Origin, Microsoft, IBM, Intel, so many companies that aren't listed here. But I want you to know that Career Strategy Lab is by application only. So if you want to learn more, you can just go to careerstrategylab.com. We let new people in every couple of weeks, but it is dependent on how many people are currently in the program. So we kind of have a maximum number of people we work with at a time, and then we let people in as spots open up. So if this sounds interesting to you or helpful to you, or if you have been applying to hundreds of jobs, or you thought you'd be hired 6 months ago and you're still not getting hired, etc., it might be worth checking out because, like I said, we're not a boot camp. We're not teaching you how to do UX, which is why we are experts at the resume, LinkedIn, portfolio, job search, interview prep, etc., which is why our people get hired at all of those companies. So I am thrilled to hear that you guys have your Post-it notes. I want to read some of them out of curiosity. So some of you said, tailor the resume and cover letter. That's what Charmaine said. Adam said, building authentic relationships, not just networking. Exactly. And like relationships, it just could be you are commenting on someone's LinkedIn post every now and then. And that's, the building blocks of forming a relationship, right? It's kind of like dating. Carrie said, simple things like rearranging bullet points on your resume. Exactly. Anonymous LinkedIn user said, be purposeful in your job search. I love that one. Henny said, rearranging resume and cover letter. Exactly. Someone mentioned JobScan. We love JobScan as a tool to help you improve your resume. So shout out to who mentioned that one. Charmaine for mentioning that one. What else do we have? Jessica. Oh, hey, Jessica. Jessica said, favorite takeaway, print the job description and highlight the skills and experience I want to emphasize in my resume. Exactly. I never thought to print it out. Good old-fashioned paper and highlighter is a great option. Exactly. Do whatever works for you, right? But, a lot of you, here's what I have to say about job descriptions. I know a lot of you are thinking job descriptions are just pieces of junk. They're poorly written. It says like inaccurate things. Okay, let's all get over the fact that job descriptions aren't always perfect because they aren't. But what can you control? You can control reading that job description, first of all, and then, choosing the bullet points that you feel like are pretty reliable. Maybe there's one that says you need to have been using Figma for the past 20 years or something. Okay, we know that's a mistake, but don't kind of ignore the job description or gloss over it just because, you're kind of on this camp of, oh, job description sucks, so I'm just going to not pay attention to it. It really does hold the clues of what you want to try and highlight in all of your career materials. Nancy, hey, Nancy. See, I recognize Nancy. Nancy likes and comments on my stuff. Nancy said, this was amazing. Career value criteria is my number one takeaway. Thank you so much. Marilo said cover letters equal appetizer. Exactly. And here's the bonus thing. If you just write one cover letter as kind of your base template, it should not take you more than 5 or 6 minutes to customize that for every job you apply to, right? We're not rewriting the cover letter over and over. We're just rearranging, tweaking, doing a few things here and there to make it kind of match up to what they are looking for based on the job description, which is imperfect. Let's all get over it. Okay. Rearranging bullet points seems to be a big takeaway for you guys. So I'm glad, because that will definitely help you. And Yasmin said, remember to ask yourself what you want before you apply. Exactly. Otherwise, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're wasting your time. And here's the other thing. When you just apply to large quantities of jobs, guess what? You're probably going to end up with more rejections. And then guess what? You start to feel bad and negative, and then you're not good enough, and that maybe you should quit and go back to being a teacher or an architect or something. And that's how you get sucked in to that kind of negativity, imposter syndrome, etc. So by not applying to hundreds of jobs, I think that is one way you can reduce the risk that you get flooded with rejections or ghosted, and you increase the chances that you're going to get yeses from the better jobs for you. Anyway, everyone, this was fun. I unfortunately don't have time to do any Q&A today, but keep an eye on my LinkedIn and my Instagram. We're going to be doing more, and my Twitter. We're going to be doing more of these live streams in the next little bit, but also I'm always posting articles and content on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, and that's a great way to practice commenting with something thoughtful, not just like, hey, cool article. You know, if you actually read the article and mention something from it, that's going to stand out, right? It's about quality of interactions, not just meeting a quota that you feel like you need to go like, 20 posts today, because that's kind of useless. All right, everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to apply if you are interested or curious about Career Strategy Lab. It's totally free to apply. All the details are on that page. And we review the applications every morning. So you might hear from us tomorrow if you apply today. Anyway, awesome to see you all and some familiar faces. And we will talk to you later. Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.